Hello, my name is Eric, and I want to talk today, in this episode, about ethnicity identity. Only reason why I want to talk about that is to compare 1960 to 2021. Welcome to the craziness that lives inside my head. Okay, ethnicity, especially if you're a black African American, which, by the way, was a new term, and I forgot what brought that term up. I don't know if it was the 80s or the 90s, but I don't remember anything about African American in the 60s and the 50s. You were black or colored, Negroid, you know. Then within the black community, I'm quite sure white people knew about the different words used to describe black people within the black or Negro race or colored race. You had light-skinned blacks, you had dark-skinned blacks, you had high yellow blacks, yellow blacks, red blacks, and of course you had mulattoes and brown-skinned blacks. This is all back in the 50s and 60s. This is how definitely within the black community, how we describe ourselves. And I'm quite sure in the white community you did. But back then in this country, in the United States of America, if you got 1 ounce of black in your blood, you're considered black. Period. Now, we got a new thing in 2021 that I've noticed. I noticed this with, especially on what they call the dating apps and social media. There are two words that they're using. One is the young kids today, the kids today growing up. The two words are, one is biracial and one is mixed. I find it very interesting. Because back in the day, you say I'm biracial and they'll laugh at you. No, you're black. Or you say I'm mixed, they laugh at you. No, you're black. But biracial obviously means two race. Now, which two, we don't know. It could be a black, your mother could be black, your father could be white. Your mother could be Asian, and your father could be, Hawaiian. Biracial. Mix means mix. So, the difference between, that I'm getting at, ethnicity, identity, and I'm going to put that to derogatory versus complimentary. To be compliment, is calling someone high yellow, light skin, dark skin, brown skin. Is that derogatory? Even calling, and the reason why they started black African is because calling someone black, and black is not a color, black is not a race, which is true. Black is not a race, but it was derogatory to call people these names. So I'm asking, is it more complicative? I should say more positive to be called biracial or mixed. That's a nicer term. Doesn't describe much. I'm going to be honest with you. Just like it doesn't describe much when you say, oh, I talked to that black girl. Because it all depends on what's black in your mind. back in the 60s, and I'm gonna be honest with you, in the 60s, when somebody says to me, I was talking to this black girl. I mean, right away, what comes to my mind, either somebody my complexion or somebody darker. When you say black girl, now if you say I was talking to a white girl, well, obviously, you know what comes to your mind. I mean, the pictures that come to your mind. I mean, that's come on. But now, when you say you're biracial, what comes to my mind? I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've heard somebody said that this girl was biracial. Okay, I mean, being that I'm living in an area where there are a lot of biracial children, so I had that idea in my head. But then when someone said they were talking to the biracial girl, and I turned to find out what the girl looked like, I'm like, she's not biracial because she's mixed with other things. I mean, she's mixed. She definitely has. I said to someone, she's definitely not biracial. She's mixed, but she is biracial. Okay, she could be Indian or white, or she could be white and Asian, and she's biracial. Mix is another terminology, but she's definitely mixed. But then again, as someone says to me, as human beings, we all are mixed. We all are mixed. So ethnicity, identity is very interesting. Forget about the derogatory compliment. I mean, some people think it's very derogatory to call someone black or someone white, and they have this thing, people of color. And then a friend of mine said, "Well, white's not a color, so what's it?" you know, people of color. White's not a color. So anyway, ethnicity, identity, and what comes to my mind is Tiger Woods. I remember when Tiger Woods became famous. I was working, and I listened to the news at work. I work for a newspaper, so I listened to the news broadcast at work. And this one reporter read it. I guess it was reading by somebody else, was saying that the reporters were saying that Tiger Woods didn't want to accept himself being black. Because when Tiger Woods became famous, he was called the first black man. Think he was the first black, I guess the first black, I could be wrong. First black man for golf, because we all know that most black people play baseball and basketball. So he was the first black man to be a professional in golf. Okay. And then they were saying that he didn't want to say that he was black, or he refused to believe he's black. Well, he's mixed. He definitely was mixed. You could say he was biracial. Well, his father was African American and his mother was Thai, I think, or Thai Chinese. Well, I mean, come on. He was definitely biracial. Now, isn't biracial, I guess biracial, in my opinion, in 2020, 21, is more of a compliment to be called, I guess, than black or one race. But he was mixed. Now, I have a question. He could be anything he wanted to be. If his mother was Thai, he could say he was Thai. Why he has to be black? I used to say that back then. I said, why are they getting on his case? I mean, if he doesn't want to be black or doesn't want to call himself black, what's the difference? His mother was Thai. He could just as easily say he was Thai. He's biracial. He could be anything he wants. Now, you said, why are you bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because I noticed in 2021, I should say in the last 10 years, now I'm getting older and I'm seeing these young kids coming up. In some situations, I'm not saying, I don't want to generalize, but I think there's a lot of biracial, a lot of mixed children coming up. And I think the terminology biracial and a mix has become I noticed this on social media and on the dating sites. It's become it's what they're really using, Of course, when I see black right away, if you check the age of the person, I think anyone definitely in their 40s and up use the terminology black. and Afro-American. But a lot of the young ones would identify themselves as biracial or mixed. I want to give you an example, because now you might say, well, why would someone dark skin or brown skin call themselves white? Because white is a race. And white is not a race, by the way. White is a color. I mean, well, why not? I mean, if you generalizing, if the society we live in is generalizing, anyone come from Europe is white, and anyone come from Africa is black, which is both is wrong. Why can't they use that? The ethnicity. So what I'm going to do is, because we all know about 23andMe and Ancestry.com, I went to 23andMe, both, to get my ethnicity, I guess my ethnicity, how you say, degrees, percentage. It's called percentage. Well, you can look at me, you know right away. I am 71% African. That's obvious. That's why on my birth certificate it says black. I think it says Negro on my birth certificate. Look at me. I'm 71% Negro. But then again, the rest of me is 27.6% European. Interesting. So why couldn't they say on my birth certificate? They could say on my birth certificate European. No, but it says black or Negro. The other part of me, the rest of me, is 1.1% Asian, and then it's 0.3%, they don't know what it is. I could be 0.3% alien from another planet. They don't know. But 27.6% European, does that give me a right to tell people, oh, what race are you? Oh, I'm European. And they'll look at me and say, no, you're black. But then I could say, well, basically I'm biracial. A terminology I've never called myself, biracial. So the kids today, I'm not saying all, I don't want to say I'm generalizing. I'm just saying what I've seen on social media and what I've seen on the dating sites. The kids today, not all of them, are calling themselves, those who are, biracial or mixed. And I would assume if someone is calling themselves biracial, they, in the county I live in, it most likely has a white mother or white mother, black father, black mother, white father, or white, whatever. Now, if a kid is saying mix, in my situation, you could say I'm mixed. But in this country, like I said, back in the 50s, I don't know what this country is doing today. I assume they hasn't changed it. If you got this much blood, black blood in you, I guarantee they're going to put on your birth certificate African American. But again, they might put on, depends on what, I don't know how they figure it out today. I mean, if a white mother, this is very interesting. So if a white mother have a dark-skinned child, even though that I don't know how it goes, the child can't be darker than the darkest parent. So if a white mother have a brown-skinned child, let's say, are you going to put down Caucasian, or are you going to put down African American? I mean, I don't know. Unless they ask the parent what ethnicity, identity that they want the child to be, I don't know. All I know is things have changed. If it changed for the better or changed for the worse, I have no idea. But I will say, in my opinion, if these kids today are only using the terminology biracial and mixed, and no other terminology to identify themselves, I think that's a very good thing. Because I did not like the terminology they used back in my day. I was never called high yellow. My mother was. I was never called that. I was never called anything but black or brown skin. born and raised in New York City, I have been mistaken to be either Dominican or Puerto Rican, but that was it. And I'm only bringing this up because when I moved south, I got called high yellow by too many black people. But these are the old blacks from the 50s that was calling me this. So anyway, this is Eric, and you just heard the craziness that lives inside my head.